Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back. With nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Welcome, everybody, to Uncluttered and Unfiltered with me, Eden Kendall, a broadcaster of many years, and Christine Stone, a professional organizer. Her company is Neatly Designed.
Hey, everyone.
We have had some really great tips that have come across over the course of the last several months that we've been doing this, and we've had some really funny laugh out loud episodes. This one is an interesting one to me because you and I sit on two separate sides kind of on this issue. And at the same time, we're both like, psst, psst,
right.
Pshaw, and it's New Year's resolutions.
Yes.
Because everybody talks about them. People have made them for years and years, but we're both like, I
am never a big fan of New Year's resolutions because I think in the job that I do, I see how people are really good, whether it's weight loss, drinking, whatever organization, they're really good for a month and then they go back to their old ways and then they spend the rest of the year beating themselves up on, I couldn't keep that silly, stupid resolution. And to me, a resolution is finding something new that you want to do every month or once a week, and doing something like that instead of trying to do a whole change that is it's hard as you get older, as you well know, to really make major changes. I'm very routine. I like to keep everything the same. So I don't mind incorporating small changes, but I think resolutions are like major changes.
And where we are different is I love a good reset, reboot,
yes,
mission, adventure, something with a starting point and an ending point versus necessarily a resolution. And one thing, if I could, tell me if I'm right, I don't want to make an assumption, but I think just from listening to this, everybody would agree with me. Christine, as somebody who is a professional organizer, one might think of you, that someone in your profession at least, could be rigid or unforgiving about getting rid of bad habits or picking up better habits. But in reality, what you are is you're just very much of a let's be kind to ourselves person.
I am.
You might realize that what you have to offer when it comes to things like organizing your pantry or setting a routine, that might make them feel better, but you're not judging them if they don't. You're not suggesting for a minute that somebody is less than if they don't. So therefore, for you, resolutions are a way to set yourself up for failure sometimes.
Sometimes. And I'm not saying all the time.
No, of course not.
I'm saying, though, most of the time, I've even seen it with dry January. Everyone can't wait to get back to drinking February 1st. And I'm always like, I don't get that.
So there was a whole month of fun you missed. No,
right.
I'm just kidding.
You know what? I never really understood that.
Yeah.
Or, with weight loss, to me, it's the same thing. For 1 month, you have to starve yourself. You have to or fitness. You have to exercise yourself to death. And then by February 1st, you're starving, you're exhausted. It's like, I think you should just kind of take small steps throughout the year.
Some of the recommendations that I've come across from various experts are about how habits are formed. And it depends who you ask. Some people say if you do something for 3 weeks, it's a habit. If you do something 100 times, it's a habit. 10 times, it's a habit. There are all these different things, but if you have a goal and you break it up into actual tasks, things you're going to start incorporating, and there's no reason it can't be January 1st. It just doesn't have to be.
Right. It just doesn't have to be.
So I thought we could use this as an opportunity to talk about some common New Year's resolutions. And at the same time, I wanted to tell you about something that I just recently did that so far, and I'll only say so far because we're only 6 weeks into this.
Right.
I did what I'm calling just a 4-week reset. And I want to share that with everybody and tell you how I feel about it and what inspired it. So that's coming up. But first, I know that for me, New Year's resolutions typically are things like adding in more water. I'm going to hydrate. This is the year starting January 1st. Every time you see me, I'll be drinking out of one of those gigantic mugs or bottles with the markings on the side, and I'm going to consume all this water. And that usually lasts a day,
right?
Maybe a week at the most,
right?
I've done things like, I'm never going to let the dishes go undone or sit in the, those kinds of little things
Right.
that, they go by the wayside, and then when they're done, they're done.
Exactly. Right. I mean, for me, I used to do New Year's resolutions a long time ago, and they weren't like major things, but I was like, you have to have a New Year's resolution. And every single year I would go through January, it'd be great, and then it would not. And so now I kind of just pick one thing kind of on New Year's Eve. I make it like a little habit that I pick one thing that I could do to make myself feel better, whether it's, going for a walk every day, or, something that makes me like feel better about myself. And so then I don't feel like if I don't follow through on every little thing, it's a fail. It's just one
Did
thing.
you do that last year? Did you make a resolution? And if
Yes.
so, did you keep it?
Yes.
Okay. What would you share?
I think it was to focus more on my family. My daughter was getting married, and so I wanted to really be present for that, the whole building up of it. I didn't want to be like, God, hurry up and get. I wanted to really, really enjoy the build up of it, the day of it. So I said in January 1st, I'm going to really be present, and I'm really going to focus on being with my family. And I really was through. And when the wedding was over, I almost collapsed. But, I really think that I think if you put it in your head, something, it's always in the back of your head.
Sure.
So I kind of put that in the back of my head. Like when I'd want to do something that would take up family time, I'd go, remember,
You've said that to me many times, and I have a couple of friends that I really admire that are very vocal about, and it doesn't, and I feel like if there was one thing, they say regret, we've even talked about regret is wasted. It's just wasted. But I do think that priorities being on family time is something that is, you'll never regret that.
You'll never get it back.
That's one thing you'll never regret, putting family first, and you do a tremendous job of that. Even as far as, one thing I admire about you, Christine, is you will actually, when you're looking at a calendar, you might say within a week or two, this whole week or two, I just want to know that I'm present and mentally there. My daughter is 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, whatever, depending on whatever the date is. And I don't want to commit to anything during that week, because I don't want to have to cancel on somebody and be a flake or be that person that cancels. So I think you've done a great job. I didn't realize that was something you had intentionally chosen as your resolution. We'll use that word just because that's the theme of today's episode. But I didn't realize that. I just figured you were always that way because we haven't had so much time together until we started this podcast. So I didn't know that about you.
Yes, and that was something definitely just for this past year, because I was, working a lot, and there was COVID, so everyone had already been home a lot. So you were like, okay. But then I realized a wedding is a big event. Someone having a baby is a big event. So you really don't want to wish it away or, God, I hope this. You want to really sit in the moment and enjoy it. And so that was what I felt last year. I'm still thinking about this year. I think I have an idea, but I'm still mulling over a few different things that I want to do to kind of improve my life.
I love it. I love that. So, or as they say, I love that for you. I love that journey for you. So,
I love that journey for you.
That's from that show, Schitt's Creek.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
one of my
my
favorite
God.
characters. Oh, my God, David, I love that journey for you.
I know. Best show ever.
Best show. So, my little reset, let me tell you a little bit about that. And while it does revolve around running, and I know ad nauseum, it's like, okay, Eden, get a running podcast. We're tired of it. I understand that.
You probably will soon.
Don't let me add any. That's my resolution, not to add anything to my schedule, because I took things away this past year, and then I immediately turned around and added more. So I wanted to, first of all, I want you to listen, if you're listening to this and you are of the age that we are of, and a lot of times we discuss being over 50. So this is for anybody. I really truly believe that regardless of whether you occasionally go for a walk, you do none of those things, but you feel tired sometimes. I want you to just think about how to apply this to your own life if you have an interest. Or if you have any advice or suggestions, I'm so wide open to that. So a couple of months ago, I ran a race. I am a runner, as we have overstated, and I felt like crap. I hit a wall. I almost quit. It was a 10-mile race on Halloween weekend through Evergreen Cemetery here in Jacksonville. They do it every year. It's a wonderful run. It was humid. I'll give myself that. But it was lousy. And you had even said to me, you're seeming tired lately.
Yes,
and
I did
have
say
said
that.
And so I just started to realize I'm doing something or not enough of something, and I need to do a reset. And I want it to be something where I have a lot of accountability. I want to put it out there. Social media is a great way for accountability. In fact, I've even read studies that say diets and saving money and these kinds of things that you're trying to apply to your life are, if you put it out there on social media, as much as some people have a problem with it, it does lend itself to being accountable. And in my case, it not only did that, but it opened me up to have a lot of people give me some excellent advice. But what I said I wanted to do was I wanted a complete reset. I wanted to examine how much rest I was getting, how much hydration I was getting, the food that was going into my mouth, the amount of exercise I was getting, and in my case, I knew it needed to be less. And also, I wanted to really be thinking about being menopausal and postmenopausal, because I really hadn't given that a lot of consideration. So I went to a coach that I know of in town, and it's Jacksonville, but it's Burn Fitness. And Burn District Fitness, Ron Rodriguez is the coach. He's a running coach and a fitness coach. And we talked about everything. We talked about doing more warm-ups, more proper warm-ups. And we talked about food and fueling and eating with purpose, and not eating to lose weight or gain weight, but eating for protein, eating for, they call it macros, and that everybody's different in what they need and require, but being very intentional about going back to when I say going back to the basics, I mean what you would want for your child. If you think your child isn't getting enough greens, why is it okay for you to not get enough fruits and vegetables and greens? I wanted to go back to the basics. I wanted to look at my health as somebody because you get sloppy when you get to a point like where I was, where you're running X amount of miles and all these marathons and this and that. And you're like, you start to think of yourself in terms of, I'm this healthy person, but you're not doing the healthy things that you're supposed to be doing. I wasn't taking vitamins or minerals. So I did some reading on which vitamins and minerals a woman of 56 really needs.
Which they do need certain vitamins and minerals.
And for me, and I'm only speaking for myself, magnesium, it relaxes me a little bit at night. It gives me a good poop in the morning. I mean, these are the kinds of things that are, and I can't stress enough how much this is for me. I mean, you should talk to your own. We're not doctors here. We're not doctors. We're not coaches. We're not certified to tell you any of this. I'm telling you for me. And then somebody recommended a book. The book is called Next Level, Your Guide to Kicking Ass, Feeling Great, and Crushing Goals Through Menopause and Beyond. The author is Dr. Stacy Sims. She has a co-author, Celine, I don't know my readers on. They go through all of these basic things. Now, for them, it is about athletics. But did you know that a lot of these studies that have been done on physical fitness in general have only been done on men, because scientists and physicists and professors and whoever else was in the mix knew that it would be too complicated with women's hormonal cycles to do studies on women. Yeah. So a lot of the materials that we read about health and fitness and like that are all based on men. So I really wanted to get back into it. So I started to read. I added in rest to the point where I slept and napped like it was my job for the last 4 weeks.
I'm a huge napper. I believe in naps. I've always believed in naps, always. Even when my kids were little, when they would nap, I would nap. I love a good nap.
So setting a bedtime and an appropriate nap schedule as a New Year's resolution is not a lazy thing to do. It's a smart thing to do.
Oh,
Making sure you're getting enough sleep. So that was part of my reset. making sure you're eating all the healthy foods, all those things that you want your children and your grandchildren to be eating.
That's a hard one, though.
It is hard.
That's hard. I mean, that's easy to do when you're doing a reset like that. But especially, thank God this podcast is for older women over 50, but even when you have kids, I see it with my husband. I could stop eating at 4 p.m. and not eat again until breakfast in the morning, but he comes home at like 6:30.
Right.
So it's hard to figure out everybody's schedules if you want to sit down and eat together. And I think a lot of eating after 6, for me, I cut that out a while ago. So that is difficult when you have a husband, children, whatever, that you're trying to do you, but around everybody's schedule.
But again, I really want to stress this. When was the last time, whether you're a mom, a grandma, single, married with no kids, whatever, when was the last time you as an adult really thought about when you're ordering a meal, for example, and your sides are French fries, vegetables, whatever, you might forego the fries because maybe you're trying to cut calories, you're trying to do this. But have you ever intentionally said, no, it's not, I do want the fries, but you know what? Also give me those vegetables because I'm not getting enough vegetables. I felt like for me, I was neglecting all of these basic things we've known since we were younger in health class.
Okay, so this is where we differ.
Okay.
I would want the fries. I would stare at your fries. I would even think about eating one of your fries. I would order the vegetable or the salad, whatever. I'd definitely do that, but I would never stop thinking about your fries.
And I'm not saying don't eat the fries. That's my point. Get the fries, but I'm intentionally trying to add in things that are good for me. It's not about depriving myself. And if you're under the guidance of a medical professional and you are supposed to be cutting those things out, it's tough. And I feel for you. But sometimes it's also tough to make yourself eat things that aren't your favorites. Like, I
think eating, though, I think that's a whole different, I think everybody is so different. Even in menopause, like I'll hear some women say, I didn't even have one hot flash. It was so easy. And I'm looking at them going, what? I just think that everybody, like some people don't even have a problem eating a lot of vegetables and proteins. They're like, I don't get what you're talking about. Okay, that was easy.
But to my point, for myself, for my 4-week reset, it was an all-encompassing thing where I said, I am going to devote a lot of mental energy to this reset and do all of these things that are so incredibly basic that a lot of people would roll their eyes and say, what do you mean you weren't like warming up before you hit the pavement to run? What do you mean you weren't taking a multivitamin as a woman who's over 50?
Yeah.
What do you mean you weren't eating all the vegetables and all the proteins? And what do you mean you weren't checking to see if you were depleted in any hormones? Seeing my doctor, finding out if I needed, for me, it's
really
an
is the
estrogen
first step is seeing your primary care, your gynecologist to see what you are lacking.
Right, exactly. So this reset, I will say, worked like a charm for me. Now I'm past it. I documented it on my Instagram because I didn't want to annoy everybody on Facebook and every other. So if you follow me on Eden Kendall Jacks, you'll see lots and lots and lots of reels and posts and things like that about my little back to basics reset. But my point as it relates to a New Year's resolution is that was on November 1st. It didn't have to be January 1st. You can have a resolution or a reset all year long.
Yeah.
But I truly believe, this is my biggest takeaway, is that you should have an endpoint. You should have an endpoint. Not when it's something like with you where you said, I want to be more intentional about being present, being here for my family. But give yourself an out. Like, don't say from this point forward, I'm going to drink 16 ounces of water 4 times a day. I don't know what the right amount is. I'm just saying, don't say that's from now on. Say for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to do that, because you might start a habit. You might feel better for it and realize it's something you've been missing. Or you might say, well, that was great. And what you eventually start doing is maybe half of that sticks. You drink a little bit more water than you were before. But these resolutions that make you feel terrible because it's January 16th and you are no longer participating in whatever it was you resolved on December 31st, that's not a healthy mindset going into a new year.
Well, and also one thing I am constantly telling people in my job is whether you're going through a divorce, whether, you're downsizing, moving, whatever the major changes, it causes fear. And even if it's cleaning out a closet or a junk drawer or a kitchen, I see the fear on people's faces like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get rid of something. Yeah. Whenever you get in a new routine, you forget what the fear was. You forget that just starting something new is so fearful, no matter what it is in your life. And so if you can look at it as, once I get in my new routine, this will be just like my old routine. Everybody wants some sort of routine, and they feel better when they get back in a new routine. They forget what their old routine was like. And that's even in organizing. When I come in and organize somebody, once they're in the new routine and they see their new organized space and they're loving it and it's saving them time in the morning and they're like, this is great. They like it and they get in a new organized routine. So it's in implementing new routines.
What are some of the habits, if you could instruct some people listening right now, and I'm putting you on the spot for this question, but I know it's second nature to you, but what are some habits that, let's say you just left my home and you just did the Christine Stone magic, which you've done, and I kid and say things aren't organized, but they still are 80%
That's
organized.
Normal.
They're
Very
great.
normal.
They're still great. I mean, I still know where to find batteries. They're in the battery bin that you brought to us. I still know what is and is not in the junk drawer. Everything is, I'm good. So what are some habits that are just some fun little takeaways? For example, here, let me give you one. You suggested that lids and pots go together. When I put my dishes from the dishwasher to put them away, like where I used to take the lid and it goes where the lids go and the pot where it goes where the pot goes, I have to make sure there's a match before they both get put away.
That was because you had a drawer. So it really
Right.
depends on how much space
Right.
the kitchen has, but you had a nice sized drawer and you didn't have tons and tons of pots and pans.
Right. But my point being, that's a habit that I needed to start. So it's not a habit for everybody. That's an exclusive to me habit. But let's say somebody has just done the big purge. So what are some habits? I'd love to revisit the habit of having that bag in your closet, because we've heard from a lot of people. That's a great habit to pick up in the new year. Nothing goes back on a hanger. If you've tried it, didn't wear it, it goes in the bag, and then eventually you look through that bag and it either goes or it.
Well, that's always been a favorite, because one thing women, especially women over 50, suffer from is putting on an article of clothing and feeling really lousy about how it looks on them, whether they've gained weight or they're just in a different phase of their life. And so instead of hanging it back up, put it in the bag, consign it, or donate it, whatever you want to do with it, but don't hang it back up in your closet, because you want it. Your closet should be only holding clothes that make you feel good about yourself. And that I truly, truly believe.
I believe that's an amazing resolution.
Yes, it is.
I think if you have no other resolutions this year, but you're an uncluttered and unfiltered fan, and by the way, we couldn't appreciate you any more than we do, I think that's a fantastic resolution to make. Say, I am moving on. Nothing gets hung up that I don't think is fantastic for me.
Yeah, or anything, whether it's shoes that you never wear because they really kill your feet and you got blisters from them and you're like, I'm never wearing those again, but you won't get rid of them. New Year's Eve is a great time to purge, whether it's in a home office and, getting rid of all that paper clutter in your own closet and really starting a fresh new year with a new attitude about how you look and how you feel. And you don't have to be a size 0, a size 2, 4, 6, whatever, to look and feel good about yourself. You don't. It's just if you don't have the clothes in your closet that make you feel good, then you're like, God, I used to be that size 4. What happened to me? I'm disgusted with it. You don't need to feel that way. I mean, I always told my daughters, you're not a size 0 because you're not in 9th grade in school anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you grow, your bones grow, you're becoming an adult. I mean, bodies change. Menopause changes you. You might want to, think it's not going to, but it changes you in so many different ways. And I'm not saying it changes you and you have to stay that way forever, but you get things that you just didn't have before in how
Things
you feel.
shift.
And things shift and you're getting older and you either have to embrace it or you have to just sit around every day and beat yourself up over that you're not, 30 years old again or 25. And I just think that's a waste of time.
I love that as a resolution as well, to embrace your age. Just understand that there is a lot of positive that comes with it. Yeah, we could go on and on about all the things that suck about getting older, and we cover them here.
Yeah.
We do. But there's a lot about it that's great. It sure as hell beats the alternative. And
Yes.
we just have to think. But I love that going into a new year. We were just talking about being sensitive. That's another thing I resolve every year. I'm not going to be sensitive. I'm not going to take things personally. I'm not going to try to look through a filter of how does this affect me and why and what would people think about me. We've covered expectations recently when we talked about to-do lists, meeting other people's expectations. That's a great resolution. It's the things that we don't like are the things that where we agree that we don't like are the things like starting January 1st, no more French fries for
ever.
Christine Stone.
Forever. It's, that is, first of all, it's never going to happen. I mean, ever.
Out of your cold, dead hands with those fries get fried, right?
Especially the skinny ones.
Skinny hands or skinny fries?
So, yeah, I mean, I just think then, you just set yourself up. So.
Right. Exactly. So I guess the question is, does this conversation make me feel like I like New Year's resolutions a little bit more than I did going into the conversation? I just think resolution by itself is fine, but I don't think it has to be on New Year's Day.
No, I don't either. I think I look at it just starting a new year. That's it. It's giving you the opportunity to put the past year behind and start a new year with a clean slate.
Right. And if you get a late start, if your year, just decide that you're going to use a fiscal year.
Right.
Which I'm not a business person, so I don't even know what that means. But I just know that you can say this New Year's resolution or starting today, because guess what? Every night the sun goes down, every morning when the sun comes up, it's a new day.
Yes, it's a new day. And that's what I look at a new year. It's a new year, a fresh start. Put 2022 behind you and 2023, here we come.
More priority on yourself.
Yes.
Your family.
Yes.
Less priority on expectations from other people, opinions from other people, holding on, more letting go, less holding on.
Right. How appropriate is that?
It's exactly what we strive to get across. And it's not, with my little 4-week reset that I keep talking about, I kept saying over and over again, I'm not teaching, I'm sharing. I'm learning and sharing. I get very excited to learn new things, and I always want to turn around and share them. And I think that the back to basics thing is what I needed. I just needed that. For you, somebody listening might need almost the complete opposite. Maybe you've become obsessed with health and wellness and fitness, and you need to back it off. I mean, that's certainly something that for some people has to happen. So it just, you do you, boo, as
right.
as the kids say. And in the meantime, you could resolve to always listen to our podcast and leave us a great review.
Yes.
That would be appreciated too. And the way you do that is wherever you're listening right now, we'll undoubtedly have a feature that allows you to leave us 5 stars. So if you could do that for us, that actually helps. There's algorithm stuff that takes place in the magical scientific world of podcasting. And then the other piece of that is if you would share with a friend, maybe resolve to share our podcast with one person who's never heard of it. That would be great.
Be really great.
And we also have to say, and we're not going to give you all the details right now, but there is something very exciting that has happened that has to do with us being out and about in the community. We have been invited to participate in something it's a great honor.
Yes.
And it's a golden opportunity for us to have a chance to really get out there and try something new. So we are not going to say what it
looking
is,
forward to it.
but keep a close eye on our social media. That's
Yes.
all we've got to say, which you can find at anything called Uncluttered and Unfiltered. That's Instagram, that's TikTok, that's Facebook, that's all the
YouTube,
things.
all
and
the
of course
above.
the website.
Yes.
So in the meantime, Happy New Year to you. Let it go. Let it go.
And don't look back.